Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, I remembered how we start the show every time and have for roughly 800 episodes in a row. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Also, I'm always aware of the countdown, and I never get the countdown wrong, but sometimes you get the countdown wrong on the morning show on Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning. How are you doing?
I don't know. I can't remember. Let me check my notes and tell you how many days it is until let's see, as of Thursday, 93 days till the Indiana game and 177 days till the Michigan game, Tony. I'm sure I'm right. Please don't check.
I certainly won't, because I get my information from your show, and sometimes those numbers are faulty, so I don't know who to trust, frankly. I guess what I can do is I can just ask Bing, my trusted search engine.
I was fine with this countdown until the Mayan calendar ran out, and then it was like, oh man, oh no, 2012, everything just kind of went to heck. Now I need to switch over to the Mayan Williams calendar.
There you go. Perfect. And we do now have more things to add to your 2023 Mayan Williams calendar, as the first three game times and kickoff times and networks have been announced. And it's always one of the, is it a sports holiday, or is it a sports, like every day has that, like it's National Cheeseburger Day, it's National Wear Your Hat Backwards Day. I think it's that kind of holiday, right?
Yeah. And Tony, by the way, on Friday, National Donut Day. So that my wife does social media management, and so she has like an app that tracks, and it has all of the national, it's like National Tax Preparers Appreciation Day. It's like, I don't think that's a thing, but if you do social media for a tax preparer, it is a very important day. So yes. So yes, National, what we're talking about, Cheeseburger Day. Yeah. It's national, the first 3 weeks of the season. You can sort of set your tailgate plans. You can set your travel plans. That's really for Ohio State fans this year. Of the first 3 weeks, the only one you really care about is the Indiana game, because then you're booking your hotels and making your travel plans. And do I need a hotel Friday night? Do I need a hotel Saturday? Well, all that kind of stuff. So, this is an important day for a very small subset of people, I guess.
Yes, but a very important subset of people. They are part of our audience. Yes, exactly. One of my favorite days. So now Ohio State, we know the first 4 weeks of kickoff times, because Notre Dame was announced previously. That is week 4. That is a 7:30 kickoff in South Bend on NBC. But Buckeyes will open the season at Indiana with a 3:30 kick on CBS. Tom, do you know the last time Ohio State was on CBS? It's been a while. I do not know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm thinking through, because CBS recently has only had the Sun Bowl.
The kickoff classic of some sort.
Well,
maybe.
I remember them playing on CBS when they played against West Virginia in 1998, because its TV network is determined by the opposing teams, the host team's conference, TV deal. So Ohio State has not played at a SEC team in the last decade or two.
87.
Well, 98, the West Virginia game, I remember. That's the last one I could definitely tell you they were on CBS. But I got to tell you, the promo that CBS ran right near the end of last college football season, where it was the CBS music and the Big Ten, and it's, like Rutgers, Maryland, and it's a CBS music. It's like, man, this is like an out-of-body experience.
It's a little bit much. It's like a WWE like intro for like a 4th grade spelling bee. It's like, hey, seems a bit over the top.
It is National Spelling Bee Day today, I saw as well. That's very exciting. Tony, my annual challenge to you as a Northwest Ohioan, spell wash. Hint, the R is silent.
But it's still there, Tom. It is WARSH, wash. And that
ding.
No. You might want to. No, I think you are incorrect, Tom. It is Warsh. It has always been Warsh. It will always be Warsh. Thank you. So that is a 3:30 kick at Indiana on CBS. Week 2, Youngstown State. Thankfully, there was concerns that it was going to be like some random night game. It is a noon kick on BTN, right where it belongs. You're going to play the FCS. You're going to be aired on the FCS of Ohio State's, of the Big Ten's programming partners. other than Peacock. And we'll get to that later. So that is a 12 p.m. kick. That is perfect. Western Kentucky Week 3, a 4 p.m. kick on Fox. I do like the way Fox is going from, I think, 12, 4, 8, so that there won't be as much running into games. And 4 o'clock, we can start complaining about the 3:30 and 4 p.m. kick, how it impacts us, which is really what the show is about, because it occupies our entire Saturday viewing opportunities, save for the late night stuff.
Well, and that's true not just for us, but that's true of everyone who's at the game, where, for us, we're there earlier and we're there later, before and after the game. But if you're going to go to the game and you're going to set up a tailgate and hang out for an hour or two before the game, and then you stay to the end of the game, and then you're sitting in traffic for a while, you're going to miss at least the second half of the early games and the first half of the primetime games, at least. And it might be more than that. So it's not exclusively an us problem, but it's largely an us problem. But yeah, I don't mind the 3:30 kick if it's, hey, this is the biggest game of the year. This is the biggest game of the week. Or, hey, it's Ohio State, Penn State, and they're playing at 3:30. Like, yeah, that's fine. Like, whatever. That's it. When it's Western Kentucky and, you're missing a whole week of college football for the Ohio State Western Kentucky game. Like, what if you kicked that one at 11 a.m. and got it? Just get it started an hour early. Who says no? Frankly, I think that is kind of the next frontier in TV programming, because Fox had the last major move where you kind of take the noon slot that was always kind of like the crappy Wake Forest, Syracuse, Jefferson Pilot kind of slot, and turn that into a marquee thing where there's no competition, so everyone's watching your game. It kind of feels like the next frontier in college football is, okay, the people who don't really care to watch the pregame shows start a game at 11 a.m. and just have an hour, like on New Year's Day. I think it's the Outback Bowl does that. One of them starts an hour earlier, and so you have an hour where that's the only game in town, and that feels like that's the next frontier. The Western Kentucky game, sadly, not starting at 11 a.m., starting at 4 p.m. So, boy, there are all these big national broadcast networks, and you look at some of the games they've got that first month, and it's like, oh boy, well, this is great exposure for Charlotte, but Western Kentucky. But yeah, I don't know. When you look at the TV deals that they just signed, I'm not sure these were the games that were very front of mind when they were signing over billions of dollars.
Yeah, and we can get into that because I want to look at these first 3 weeks because there are some CBS, the bosses at NBC and CBS are going to be like, what are we airing, and how much did this particular game cost us? If I go through it, of the 14 games that we have this week and the $350 million that we gave you, so this game here is costing, this Charlotte Penn State game or whatever is costing us $30 million to air. Was that a wise purchase? Yes, it's totally wise. You took me off my train of thought, Tom, and I wish you wouldn't have. Let's
talk about week 1 and the week 0 is kind of its own thing where it's very limited, but the first real full week of college football starts with Thursday, August 31st. That Thursday night game last year, it was Penn State and Purdue. 2 years ago, it was Ohio State at Minnesota. Ohio State's played in that game a couple times. That Thursday night game, they played at Indiana, and that one in 2017. This year, Nebraska at Minnesota on Fox, Florida at Utah on ESPN. Those are two really interesting games because it's the start of the Matt Rule era at Nebraska, which is Nebraska has now reached Notre Dame in terms of return to glory ? With new coach and new recruiting class and whatever. Yeah, maybe. Florida at Utah, though, man, that's a really interesting matchup because you got Florida that never travels out of the state of Florida in non-conference games, and they're going all the way across the country. You're playing at altitude. You're playing against a very big, tough, physical Utah team. Yeah, they lost Clark Phillips. They lost Dalton Kincaid. I think, what's his name, the quarterback with the long hair and the mustache. He's, I think, gone as well. So you're kind of
he's back.
Oh, is he back? Okay.
Yeah.
So he's back for year 7. But that's going to be a really interesting test for Florida because last year that game was in the swamp, and Florida kind of barely pulled it out. And at the end of the year, you kind of went, how did they do that? And you figure 95 degrees and 90% humidity probably had something to do with that. This year, now Florida's got to go on the road and deal with some weird stuff. That one's pretty intriguing to me.
Yeah, Cameron Rising, it is back, and that was a surprise to a lot of people. But you got that COVID year, you got to use it. This is the perfect opportunity, the perfect reason, a good reason to have two TVs set up, because I think both are very interesting, especially the first. I mean, look how often we wanted to, you look forward to South Carolina opening the season back when Steve Spurrier was there, that was always the season opener against whomever, and it didn't matter. It's like college football is here. Now, with week 0, you don't have to worry about it so much, but those are two good games to pay attention to, and I think Utah is still favored in that game. I think at one point it was up to 8 or 9. I don't know if it'll stay there, but
that's an interesting matchup. I do remember so many of those years when it was always Spurrier, always opened on a Thursday, and the joke / rumor / possibly factual thing was that he always wanted to open on Thursday, so he had his full Labor Day weekend to go play golf, which was that's probably not the reason, but also I'm sure he also is playing golf on Labor Day weekend, so who's to say? But yeah, that was, you may remember the Kenny Hill game, the Thursday of week 1.
Kenny Thrill Hill,
yes. The Thursday of week 1, where Kenny Hill was definitely going to win the Heisman that year. And then I think ended up transferring to Texas A&M the year after he did not win the Heisman. So, yeah, those games always, you get a disproportionate amount of attention, but it's also that whole Thursday, you're sitting at work or whatever, and you can't wait to get home and we'll have actual real life college football on TV. And, generally week 0, that first Thursday, it's whatever, I don't care. If it is Charlotte and UTEP, that's fine. Give me Charlotte and UTEP. Just give me football. These are actually two pretty strong games to open the season.
Yeah, and the first week of the season, especially when we're traveling, give me Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday football. That's just a tremendous weekend of football. Friday, nothing great, but you do have Stanford at Hawaii after high school football, so that'll be something. We'll all be somewhere. Then, Saturday comes around and we'll both be getting to the press box. I get there if it's a 3:30 kick, I got to get there by noon so that we can watch games, and we'll all be together, obviously, because we'll be traveling. Indiana, if I recall, has a pretty good setup for watching games. They've got some TVs in there. Unfortunately, Tom, we won't be able to watch one particular game on television. We'd have to watch it on our laptops or our phones, and that is East Carolina at Michigan, because that is Peacock only. I did see Peacock was trending on Wednesday after the schedule came out, and I assume some Michigan fans are upset because now they're going to have to get the internet if they want to watch the game. Unfortunate for them, but you know what? It's $5 a month, and you can do the 7-day free trial, cancel it. There'll be ways to work around it, but I think we all need to get on board with, if you want to watch Big Ten sports, you're going to have Peacock.
You are, and we're going to get to some actually more consequential games later that are on Peacock. But that I think people assumed was going to be the way they did Notre Dame games, where it was Notre Dame UNLV and Notre Dame Toledo are the ones on there. This is very much a Notre Dame Toledo type game, but there are some more consequential ones later, and this gets into sort of the fact that these TV deals are great for the conference, they're great for the schools. You're getting to the point where, with all these different sports leagues, at one point, I think the Yankees had games on 5 different platforms or channels or something in 5 days this year. You're going to get there with, if you want to, eat the whole, use the whole buffalo basically with college football and consume every bit of it, you're going to have all these different streaming networks and, either have a cable package or YouTube TV or Hulu or something that has all these different different channels, and it just feels like they're adding more and more and more. And we don't know yet what the Pac-12 is going to do. I mean, there have been all sorts of wild rumors, like the CW one wasn't true, but they have all sorts of, are they going to be on Amazon? Are they going to be on Apple? Are they going to, Are they going to just go with a regular network? It feels like it's getting harder and harder to watch all these games. I have a daughter who is a figure skater, and there's a bunch of figure skating on Peacock, so we've had Peacock in our house for a long time. And it's one of those things where it's $5 a month, so you kind of go, I don't want to bother canceling it. And then, and then it's just $5 a month every month, which is, I think, the business plan. And if you get everyone in the state of Michigan to sign up for Peacock this month and they all forget, and then everyone in Ohio signs up for Peacock later in the year whenever Ohio State's on there, eventually you're making money.
I think the game that everybody's going to be watching at noon, week 1, Colorado at TCU, big noon kickoff on Fox. The Deion Sanders era gets underway.
TCU minus what? What is your pick in that game? Because it's TCU minus a double-digit number that starts with a number higher than 1 for sure.
Well, and it's just how much does the hype bring that number down? Is the betting, on Colorado because of the hype, and it brings that down? But I'm thinking, like, my initial thought is like 17.5, but that's because of how much hype betting is going on Colorado. But this is, I continue to have this image in my head of, and I've mentioned this before, like the Family Guy episode where the guys start a band and, they get up open for their first gig and they realize they don't know how to play their instruments. And so this is a lot like that, where you've cut all of these people, you've brought all of these guys in. You may have 70 or 80 guys on scholarship, but do you have a team? And it doesn't take long for that to be exposed. Yeah, you've got a pretty good quarterback. You've got a pretty good receiver / corner. What else do you have? So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And, TCU is, we've seen TCU expose lesser programs and better programs. So we'll see what happens there. Virginia versus Tennessee, neutral site in Nashville. Will be interesting. I believe Brennan Armstrong is back at Virginia now, and they've got a better offense than they've had in the past. So maybe this could be a shootout. We'll see Joe Milton to see if he is the Tennessee Joe Milton or if he is just Joe Milton that we saw from Michigan.
Speaking of hype trains, perhaps overhyping players and programs. Yeah, I saw a video of Joe Milton at some camp, and he throws a football 80 yards in the air or whatever. It's like, yeah, that has never been the problem. He's always been able to do that. And yet, here we are. He played in the end of the 2018 Ohio State-Michigan game, actually scored a touchdown for Michigan at the end of the 2018 Ohio State-Michigan game, and has still not really been a regular starter for a team since then. And the arm has been there the whole time. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. I would not expect Virginia to be a challenge there. After that, though, the 7:30 game that night, I am a sucker for like the really old school college football rivalries that come back. We saw last year West Virginia Pitt come back, the backyard brawl. This one's even a little older than that. Penn State and West Virginia going to State College. That one, that's one when Penn State was an Eastern Independent. They played a bunch of West Virginia and Pitt and Syracuse and Rutgers and Maryland and all those kind of schools. I love seeing games where, you look at the Winsipedia or, page for that rivalry, and it's, there's whatever, 20 games in 30 years or something like that. And then just like nothing for decades and decades. And now it's back. So that one, I'm not, Neil Brown feels kind of like a dead man walking in Morgantown, but that is at least going to be a fun kind of helmet game and a fun, fans. That's probably going to be a real fun one in the tailgating lots, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, and I assume we're going to be staying the night in Indiana because it'll be we'll be getting out of the stadium pretty late. So we will be able to get somewhere and watch Coastal Carolina at UCLA, which seems interesting. Now, I'm not sure exactly what Coastal Carolina is going to be this year, but
they're going to be a Beck team, Tony. They're going to be a Tim Beck team.
Oh, strike, Tom, if you could edit this part out. I forgot about Tim Beck. But we do eventually have to get home early Sunday for Northwestern at Rutgers for a 12 p.m. kick on CBS. And this is another one where the CBS execs are like, I understand the New York market and the Chicago market, but it doesn't feel like New York versus Chicago here.
This feels like one of those like Little League World Series games between the New York team and the Chicago team. And it's like, yeah, they're from there. I don't know that you've really captured the TV markets from those areas. And I'm not sure if these teams are going to be able to beat a team of 12-year-olds. But we'll
see if the LSU versus Florida State game at 7:30 can compete with those ratings later that night. Monday is Clemson at Duke. Best advice for Dabo is don't lose that one, whatever you do. But it'll be a good look at Clemson. Everybody will be watching. Everybody will be judging, and we'll see. Week 2, Ohio State is playing a noon game. So the 3:30 game is going on while we are doing a post game. Iowa at Iowa State on Fox. UNLV at Michigan on CBS. Another good one for CBS. Texas A&M at Miami on ABC is going to be the NIL Bowl. I think what I'm thinking, Tom, winner take all in this. Back when I was a kid, me and a buddy would play Monopoly, and all of the money for the properties would go into free parking. And so whenever you land on so I think like winner should take all. All NIL money goes to the winning school of Texas A&M at Miami, and then maybe they can do something productive with that and build a winner.
Yeah, that's one where you've got the people who are kind of getting a little nervous about Jimbo and the people who are already kind of looking at Mario Cristobal and going, this didn't look any better year 1. I hope it looks better year 2. Those are two coaches where I'm going to give them the same advice that you gave Dabo Swinney. Don't lose, because the narrative around your program is not going to be great if that happens. Because both Miami and was last year the year Miami lost to Middle Tennessee State by 1 million, or was that 2 years ago? I'm getting my completely lost, terrible Miami seasons confused.
I believe it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, it was because Texas A&M lost to App State, right? And then Miami lost, I think, to Middle Tennessee, and it's like, oh boy, like you get the narrative, just the vibes around the program. When stuff starts going a little sideways, that's you really, really want to get out to like a 3-0 start, a 4-0 start the next year, and this is one that there's I think it's the Split Zone Duo podcast calls it an anxiety bowl, where it's two coaches, where it's like, oh boy, if I lose this game, one of these two coaches is going to be really, really, really not feeling great about life after this one. So that's always kind of a, for a relatively low stakes game, that's a pretty high stakes game for those two teams.
Yeah, they lost to 45-31 to Middle Tennessee State. The week before, they lost at Texas A&M 17-9. A tough, hard-fought, gritty loss. The week before that, Southern Miss, a 30-7 win. The game time in that one, I assume this was weather-related, 6 hours and 18 minutes.
Yeah, that I think was a weather delay. But yeah, that's or way too many commercial breaks, which when you're paying all this money for UNLV at Michigan, you got to get some more commercial breaks in there, Tony. So
yeah. So this is, as I said, a noon game for the Buckeyes. That means we're going to be doing a post game and hurrying up and trying to get everything done so that we can leave by like 6:30 to be home in time for Quinn Ewers at Alabama against Tyler Buckner, 7 p.m. on ESPN. The game of the year, of the week, as they say. Everybody will be watching that one. Another one, Oregon and Texas Tech, I think is pretty sneaky. Oregon's got to watch themselves. I think everybody's going to lose in the Pac-12, but I think the Pac-12 is going to be really good and have a bunch of teams there. And then again, this NBC, Charlotte at Miami at Maryland. Charlotte at Maryland. This should be a Peacock game. This is an NBC thing, and boy, at some point they'll get their money's worth. These are just, the ratings for NBC that week it's going to be pretty bad. Especially, I guess that's why we're going up against Texas and Alabama. Let's throw out some crap.
Yeah, that's one where you're not going to counter program. It's like, what do you put on ESPN when the Super Bowl's on? You're not putting other football programming on. So this is basically the NBC equivalent of putting on a cooking show opposite the big game. Because unless you're a Maryland fan, and even if you are a Maryland fan, you might not be watching this one for very long. Yeah, what else are you going to do? I do wonder how this impacts. We have not seen the 2024 Big Ten schedule yet. I'm wondering if the NBC executives are looking at some of these games and going, okay, so you can't keep shoveling this kind of steaming pile at us every week and expect us to write you these checks. I wonder what the conversation, this is us realizing that this is what this week is going to look like for them. I'm sure they figured this out a while ago, and probably as a part of these conversations, SEC SoCon Challenge weekend has kind of been spread out a little bit because you don't want every SEC team to be playing the Citadel all at once. because then whoever's got the number one SEC game that week is getting Alabama and the Citadel, and no one wants that. So I wonder if this is going to change some of the scheduling for the conference moving forward, where you'll have a few more conference games, week 2, week 3, week 4, spread those non-conference games out a little bit, because you're going to have, you have your marquee games. You've got Notre Dame visiting Ohio State, or Texas visiting Ohio State, or whoever, Hawaii visiting Michigan, all your real marquee non-conference games. But you've got to have some additional content, because if you've got 3 network TV partners, you've got to have 3 games that at least kind of have a pulse. So I would bet in 2024, 2025, when they start releasing those schedules, you may see some better games on those week 2, week 3 kind of conference games, just because even if it's Minnesota and Michigan State or something like that, like at least that's a game that kind of matters in a way that Charlotte at Maryland just kind of doesn't.
Yeah, at least 3 conference games every week, so that there's something of importance. And I'm not talking about Northwestern Indiana being one of those, but even still, that would be better. Wisconsin at Washington State, 7:30 ABC will be interesting. The 3 10:30 games that week, I'm a fan of the 10:30 games. I can't always stay up for them, but it is a nice option. Stanford at USC on Fox, Auburn at Cal on ESPN, Oklahoma State at Arizona State on FS1. Generally, for a noon game, I'm going to be spent by about 11 o'clock when I get home after that. Depends on how good the 7:30, 8 o'clock games are. I try to stay up for the 10:30s, but it just doesn't happen for me. Like I'll make it for the first half, and then at halftime, I'm out.
Well, especially the early season games, you're up in the nice air conditioned press box, maybe getting the magnifying glass and ant treatment through the front windows of the press box, but at least in the air conditioned press box, yeah, if I'm down on the field, or for people who are sitting in the stands in the sun all day, yeah, you get to about 9:30 at night, and it's like, boy, I had the SPF 5000 on today, and I'm still feeling a little heat radiating off of my skin, and probably didn't drink enough water all day, so yeah, you're kind of dozing off on the couch. Stanford at USC is probably going to be a bloodbath. Auburn at Cal, it'd be interesting to see how Auburn goes and does on the road. Cal just haven't been much of anything under Justin Wilcox. They haven't really been able to threaten people under Wilcox. And then Oklahoma State at Arizona State's at least interesting. This is the first year for Kenny Dillingham, so that's going to be a little bit of a rebuilding process. But that is an Oklahoma State team under Mike Gundy that has kind of just sort of been what it's been, but feels like maybe they're kind of trending in the wrong direction a little bit the last couple of years. And then now with Dillingham at Arizona State, that's a team that could be a little feisty. That's one that feels like, it's 35-31, 31-28. If you can stay up, that's going to be probably the most interesting and exciting of those games.
And then quickly, week 3, Friday starts with Virginia at Maryland at 7 p.m. on FS1. That's fine. That's good. We'll get to the press box by noon on Saturday. LSU at Mississippi State will be interesting. Kansas State at Missouri, Big 8. You mentioned the Penn State, West Virginia thing. You get some old school stuff going on there. But the one that really jumps out to me is Penn State at Illinois, which I feel like they should play every year now, because you're gonna harken back to the 8 overtimes. It was 9 overtimes. It felt like 100, but we stayed there and we watched it, trying to get to the Indiana game and we couldn't leave the hotel, and it was the latest we ever got to a game. But you just couldn't take your eyes off of it. The cars just kept wrecking, and it was just 100 cars on a pile on a highway, and just come screeching in on the ice, and just couldn't take your eyes off of it.
Yeah, that was, I was just going to compare it to the videos where it's like a really icy hill, and you see the cars sliding
slowly
down, and they're just very slowly sliding down, and they crash into each other, and then another one comes over the hill, and then it sort of goes sideways, and you can see the guy inside going, no, and then it crashes in the back of a bus, and yeah, that was that game. That was we were in the hotel in Bloomington, and so sure. Okay, well, certainly we're going to go. We're right. I mean, the game's almost over. We're going to stay for the end of regulation, Tony. I mean, it's Penn State and Illinois, and boy, it would be really funny if Penn State lost this game. And then, we're just, it's going to take one overtime. We'll get to first overtime. And then I think the overtimes took close to 45 minutes or an hour. And then, we're normally one of the first ones there. We were not, we weren't the last ones there either. But that was closer to game time than we typically get there. That's a kind of interesting one now that Bert's at Illinois. I think Illinois might have a little bit of a pulse there. Florida State and Boston College. I just looked at that and thought, oh, poor Jeff Hafley. Like that feels like that's just not working out for him. And you got a Power 5 head coaching gig, and that's, you pay your money and you take your chances, and you get your, if he is dismissed after this year, he's probably got a few more years of buyout left on there because he's only been there. This is 4 years now for him. So he might have another year or two on that deal. So, that's one to watch. I'll be interested to see where he lands after Boston College if he does lose that gig. But the game of the day though that day, you have this, and your note is just what ? Washington at Michigan State, 5:00 on Peacock. This is one where why are they putting all these crap games on NBC? Well, you've got Syracuse at Purdue on NBC later that day. Washington at Michigan State is maybe one of the best games of the week, or at least one of the most intriguing games of the week, because Washington's really a pretty intriguing team at this point, and Michigan State has an expensive coach. So, I mean, that's pretty good. But that, between that and Michigan being on Peacock a week or so before, that feels very strategic, where they're saying, okay, everyone in the state of Michigan, you're going to want to watch your teams. A lot of, Washington, Michigan State is a game you're going to get people signing up for Peacock to watch that game. So, that feels like a very intentional decision to, okay, let's get everyone's, get $5 out of everyone in the state of Michigan for these couple games. Because, that's one that's an intriguing enough game that if I didn't have Peacock, I would probably think about signing up, because most of the other games in that window are kind of, South Carolina, Georgia, like, okay, maybe. But yeah, that's a really intriguing kind of game to me.
And it's an odd kickoff time as well, 5 p.m. Later that night, Tennessee at Florida, Syracuse at Purdue. That could be pretty high scoring unless Purdue's defense is as good as it was at Illinois with their defensive coordinator coming over and becoming their head coach. It won't be as good as Illinois' defense last year. But then the backyard brawl, 7:30 on ABC. Pitt at West Virginia is always interesting. Late night games, Kansas at Nevada. Let's keep an eye on Kansas this year. Kansas, one of America's teams. That's on CBS Sports Net. UTEP at Arizona. Arizona is one of America's teams as well, at least as it applies here to us at Buckeye Weekly.
Yes. A friend of the program, Andrew Morgan, currently on staff at Arizona. So we always have a soft spot for the Wildcats. I also kind of have a soft spot for UTEP, just because that's one of those just impossible places to win. It's like New Mexico State and UTEP have their little battle for I-10 or whatever it is. And but it's just an impossible place to win. And I think Dana Dimmel's still there. And he had a game. He got him to a bowl game 2 years ago or last year. But that's one where I will end up at 11:30 at night, going on, the LSU football.net TV listing or whatever, and finding, what are the other weird games on right now? And you can, that's like an ESPN Plus game. I think the last 4 years or so, I have somehow found myself watching a UTEP home game at some point on some really vague streaming service via ESPN Plus. That's one of those. It's like, yeah, this is who I am. You can either love me or you can accept me for who I am or not. But I do watch a decent amount of UTEP and Hawaii and New Mexico State kind of games on those real late night when everything else is Tony. Once the kids have gone to bed, you turn on the UTEP. That's how it works.
Nevada has always been one of my teams as well, going way back to my college fantasy football days when they had Trevor Inslee as a wide receiver catching 2,000 yards and just really, really bringing me home championships. So I've always enjoyed them. So that will, I think that will do it, Tom. Anything else? First 3 weeks, all set. Looks like a lot of fun. Even at this point, the bad games, give me. Yeah,
well, this is the time of year when you would just, how much would you pay to have at least just a couple bad college football games on this time of year? I'm very sorry. I cannot get into the USFL or the XFL, but yeah, if I have thought for years that this is logistically impossible, but like D3 should play spring football, because then it was like I'd go to the Denison game, or people might go to a Capital game or an Ohio Wesleyan game or something in the spring. Maybe just pick a nice weekend. But yeah, every college football game sounds really exciting this time of year, just because you're kind of desperately waiting for the start of college football.
Man, I just can't wait to that Minnesota at North Carolina game. And then it's like, one quarter in and Drake May has 4 touchdown passes already. It's like, well, what else is on? There's plenty else on. Look, Virginia Tech at Rutgers is on. What else? What else, really? So that will do it. I want to thank you all for joining us as always. Please continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a member. Say hello to us there on the message board. Continue to watch us on YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Got some good shows planned for the next couple of weeks. I think you guys will like those as well. That's right. We've planned stuff. So hopefully it turns out okay. So I want to thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.